The Westpac rescue helicopter scoured the area by air, the water police by sea, both searching for any clues that might lead them to Fairfield man Ken Lim. The 34-year-old was washed off rocks yesterday while fishing at Mooney Point. Rough conditions forced the search to be abandoned, the swell also making things difficult today.
Even though the weather conditions seem calmer, the actual ocean, they said, is more turbulent today.
Relatives and friends were at the scene from first light today, searching desperately for the father of two. Even the local fire brigade lent a hand.
Well, we're always hopeful. We don't give up hope at all. We're always hopeful we may find the person alive.
Police have reinforced just how dangerous the spot is and the sport of rock fishing.
It's very unfortunate, these kind of weather conditions and the rough seas, that many warnings have been issued in the past, but unfortunately people still go rock fishing. It's very, very dangerous. And no matter how many times we remind them of those things, they still go out there.
No decision has been made yet as to whether the search will continue tomorrow. Tanya Carlisle, NBN News. The Junior C-Grade Concert Band Division kicked off this afternoon at Newcastle City Hall, with Sydney's Turramurra Public School setting the standard early. Across the street at the Conservatorium, the Junior A-Grade concert section was being contested, the hometown crowd favouring the University of Newcastle Concert Band. Given the task of adjudicating was renowned musician and conductor Geoffrey Brand from England. But unfortunately it was not Newcastle's day, losing by just a few points to a Sydney rival. Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
Most young boys dream about getting a job with fighter jets, and if not, then starring on a football field usually takes top billing. Craig Hall does both. A leading aircraftsman with the RAAF, Hall looks after the 2 OCU squadron at Williamtown, but on Saturday as a night, it's the West Tigers he'll be out to attack.
I think they're going to be pretty dangerous this weekend. I think they've still got a lot of danger players.
In just 4 matches, Hall has become one himself, chalking up 5 tries, including the match turner against the Sharks. Picked up from the local Newcastle competition, Hall's rise up the league ranks isn't without its hassles. The winger manages a full working week in and around football commitments, but it doesn't seem to have affected him.
He's been pretty good. I just get to him at the start of the week and he tells me when he needs me, and then I just try to work it out with the work, and they've been pretty flexible at the moment, helping me out. So
a little older than your average rookie at 25, Hall is happy to just keep living every kid's dream.
Oh, it's a buzz. I keep pinching myself all the time, like sitting in the dressing sheds with all these guys that you watch on TV for the last 10 years and having those sort of guys inside you. Nah, it's good. I'm enjoying myself.
Ambulance officers transported the man to the John Hunter Hospital at around 3:30 this afternoon, taking every precaution to protect themselves. The man was forced to wait in the ambulance while hospital staff prepared an isolation room in the emergency department. The health department has a number of measures in place to deal with suspected SARS cases, setting aside 51 beds across the Hunter and Central Coast, 15 of which are negative pressure rooms capable of removing contaminated air.
There's a rigorous infection control policy that's been developed at a state and national level, so people have a really high level of awareness about what needs to be done if someone, is suspected of having SARS.
31 potential cases have been investigated over the past 6 weeks throughout New South Wales, 6 of those by Hunter Health. In all, there have been 4,288 cases of SARS worldwide, with 251 deaths. As yet, Australia has no confirmed cases.
A great many people have been investigated for possible SARS, and in the Hunter as well. And to date, none, that SARS has been excluded.
Late this afternoon, Hunter Health released a statement saying the man's travel and clinical history did not fit the criteria for SARS. Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
Well, after 6 rounds of sensational football, there's a few men emerging as players to watch for 2003. Now, I've selected 3 from across the board, and while they're all at different stages in their careers, they all have one thing in common: a potential for a massive season. Now, the first is rookie Billy Slater. He's played 6 first-grade games and he's already scored 6 tries. He's an amazing athlete with speed and balance and a natural at finding the try line. The jury's still out a little bit on the extent of his defensive capabilities, but at only 19 years of age, he's certainly one to watch. Now, the next is Tony Pulatua, who's been around for a little while, but he's still only 23 years of age as well. Now, in the last 6 weeks, he's shown some potential that he's always promised but never quite delivered. He's big and he's strong, and I think this will be the best year of his career. And on to one of the legends of our game, Brad Fittler. Now, the standard of football that he played last year I thought was quite amazing for a player of his ilk. But he's up the ante again this year. He's a great leader, and if the Roosters do make it back-to-back grand finals, it'll be thanks to his experience and enthusiasm that he still has for the game. And on to round 7, and it's already been a huge day for rugby league. The Dragons love being underdogs, and they've knocked off the Roosters at Aussie Stadium in a great Anzac Day clash. A good effort there from the Dragons. But we've got more tonight, and here's my tips for the rest of round 7. Now, the Eels take on the Broncos. The Eels are without their 2 big playmakers in Captain Nathan Kalis and Nathan Hindmarsh. That's enough for me to tip the Broncos. 3 games on Saturday. I'll tip the Knights, Bulldogs and the Storm there. And just the 2 on Sunday, I'm going to go with the Warriors and the Sea Eagles. Well, good luck for your tips. Hope you had a great Anzac Day. See you next week.
While their attack stalled early following the loss of fullback Shane Saunders, the Goannas still managed to score first, Andrew Taylor pushing over 20 minutes in. The Bulldogs were running wild in front of a big home crowd but just couldn't find the line, that is, until Burwood Robson managed to cross in the corner. 6-4 to Cessnock at half-time, and the tight scoreline had both teams seething early in the second, but while Dean Messenger made a special delivery to help Curry along to a handy lead, the 2 teams eventually drew in a real Coalfields cliffhanger. There's 4 games still to go to complete round 7, with the Waratah Northern Blues and South Newcastle Maitland matches moved to Monday and Tuesday respectively. Barring major showers, there'll be a full round of local rugby tomorrow, with Hamilton, the Wanderers, Eastern Districts, the Uni and the Bay all at home. And while tonight's NBN Soccer League clash between Edgeworth and Adamstown has been washed out, Highfield should tackle the Gunners tomorrow, with Broadmeadow and Western hoping to continue their solid starts on Sunday.
It was close racing on the final day of the championships. Lake Macquarie was sparkling under a stormy sky and a steady breeze gave crews plenty to work with. In divisions from skiffs to multi-hulls, the lake was a melting pot of boat designs, but the sailboards were the fastest, taking out the overall top honours. Meantime, in yachting, the fledgling Newcastle Cruising Yacht Club has accepted its first trophies. The Newcastle-registered Maxi Grundig won the Sydney to Mooloolaba and the Brisbane to Gladstone races this month, flying the local flag.
We love racing the boat north. We were second in the Sydney Hobart this year as representing the Newcastle Cruising Yacht Club, and we've carried on with that. Since then, the club's given us some transfers to the side of the boat and a big burgee to carry, and it seems to have helped our luck. So we've won everything since.
And another Newcastle yacht, the recently launched Funnelweb, has survived a grounding off Japan to finish the Melbourne to Osaka race. Husband and wife crew Ivan and Sabella McFadgen hit a reef, but still managed to finish third in their division. They're expected to sail the boat to Newcastle after repairs are made.
If a doctor shortage in regional New South Wales doesn't improve within the next 12 months, Hunter Health says the impact locally could be devastating.
So it does come to the point that if we can't find doctors, we'll have to say we'll need to reduce the number of sites that we're providing services.
CEO Catherine McGrath says doctors in the region's emergency rooms are already overworked and trying to lure more has been difficult. Hunter Health needs 6 doctors to fill emergency room vacancies, 2 plastic surgeons and other medical specialists, including obstetricians. It puts the shortage down to there not being enough medical students in training and the difficulty in enticing GPs away from capital cities, adding the only short-term remedy is to enlist overseas doctors. But it seems that's easier said than done.
The processes are very complex. Commonwealth government's involved, state government, colleges, Australian Medical Council, Department of Immigration, and it's a bureaucratic nightmare in getting through all those processes.
Meanwhile, nurses at Maitland Hospital will meet on Tuesday to decide what their next course of action will be in an effort to gain 24-hour clerical assistance. Night nurses have stopped doing clerical work that they claim takes around 4 hours out of their shift. Cullen Robinson, NBN News.
No matter how hard they try, United can't wash away a forgettable 6 weeks of finals football. Countless injuries, suspensions and controversial incidents punctured then deflated any chance of a grand final appearance. Yesterday's 1-goal loss to Parramatta included a red card for Asala Massi, which automatically rules the Fijian out of the next match. United was already 2 goals down at the time, but they didn't give up. Matthew Bingley scoring, while Travis Dodd capped off a great game with a goal as well, but the lead was just too big.
The boys are disappointed, obviously, that they lost. I realised we had some good chances first half and didn't convert them, and the game's all about goals.
Coach Crook, his assistant Gary Van Egmond and keeper Daniel Beltrame now head to the NSL Tribunal tomorrow night to fight contrary conduct charges, while the club is still waiting to hear if they'll be awarded the full points after that draw against the Northern Spirit after the Sydney Siders used an illegal substitute.
Everybody feels so low with the way things have gone. Yeah, just at the moment we need a little bit of a spark. That might just be it.
It's the end of the summer roster. Newcastle City Council beaches will now be patrolled from next Monday 8 till 4:30, and it'll only be Bar Beach and Nobbies open for the majority of the winter season, with Stockton opening during the July school holidays. Newcastle Ocean bars will be manned all year round as well.
The Hunter Valley's wine region is the second most popular destination for tourists in the country. So with Australia experiencing a massive drop in international visitors, you'd think tourism operators would be worried. But they're not.
I don't think that that's a problem that we're actually experiencing. I would go as far as to say that we're actually seeing a slight increase in tourism in the area, and I would hope to think that it's growing.
That increase is because more Australians are choosing to holiday at home, and because international tourists account for around 15% of the region's total market, vignerons are confident any international decrease will be offset by a domestic increase.
The Hunter Valley is the home of wine tourism in Australia. We've been at it for 40 odd years, and so we've got an ability to draw people here and continue to do it.
Meanwhile, Hunter tourism operators are continuing their campaign to improve basic infrastructure in the area, especially roads. They say government funding is urgently needed.
If a government's going to invest in infrastructure, if they invest in this area, we're going to give them a return.
Lyndall Derrig, NBN News.
Residents of Cameron Street, Hamilton, heard several gunshots ring out just after 4 this afternoon. The first to investigate, an off-duty doctor, found a woman lying on the road with several wounds to her head. He told me there was nothing he could do for her. With the search for the gunman underway, police were remaining tight-lipped.
We won't know too much until we've spoken to all the witnesses in relation to what kind of a shooting it was. We're still gathering that information. I'm sorry.
Is there a suspect?
We have a number of leads at this point of time, yes. We expect that the matter will be resolved fairly quickly.
And it was, but not by the police. It's believed a man drove to the wharves at the end of Selwyn Street at Mayfield, where he took his own life.
That I'd like to dispel any concerns that this is a person driving around randomly shooting people, as has been suggested, and that is certainly not the case. It would appear that the persons involved in this are known to each other.
Police are tonight trying to piece together the reasons behind the shooting. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
Chances are a piece of rubbish dropped in a Newcastle street will end up here after rain in among the Throsby Creek mangroves. Now, as part of a 2-year program funded by nearby development bodies including Honeysuckle, contractors have been called in to clean up the mess.
We had a clean up in December for 5 days, and we pulled out about 15 cubic metres of rubbish, and as you can see it's all back again. It just shows people aren't doing the right thing.
Plastic makes up 60% of the rubbish collected, much of it a threat to wildlife. But workers here say they're increasingly finding something more sinister: syringes. The cleanup continues until Friday, but it's considered only a band-aid solution to the main problem of littering. Across town, another cleanup of sorts is about to begin. Several vacant shop fronts in Hunter Street West are going to be used to exhibit the works of local artists.
Ultimately, the idea is to get the shops leased, and whether that's to a young artist or another small business, well, it's all good for the city.
Anyone wanting to display their work can find more information at www.arthouse.com.au/artwalk. Cullen Robinson, NBN News. Aussie blokes can be put into 2 categories: those who drive Fords and the rest. That's certainly the opinion of the Blue Oval Brigade, and tonight in Newcastle they'll be given a chance to remember the brand's rich racing history and get a peek at the future. Every 2 years the entertainment centre turns into a festival of all things Ford, and this year the theme was definitely GT. From the 1967 XR through to this year's BA, released only weeks ago. But nothing stops a Ford fan like the king of Aussie muscle cars, the Phase 3. Also on deck tonight, some of the guys who get to race the 620 horsepower versions in the V8 supercars. Craig Lowndes made his name in the other brand, but took the BA Falcon to its first ever win last round at Phillip Island.
It's probably something that we've been striving for, and we had a great strategy at Phillip Island. It sort of fell on our lap in a sense. A few cars sort of pitted at the wrong time, and we pitted at the right time. But looking into the future, we obviously want to have a few more of those.
Teammate Glenn Seaton says the new Falcons are already challenging their rivals, and he can't wait to get his hands on one.
I've driven Craig's at testing for a couple of laps, and very impressed with it. It's a big improvement on the AU, and at the moment we're just clocking up as many championship points as we can in the AU.
Cullen Robinson, NBN News. Australia's reputation in ice hockey is, well, almost non-existent, but that could be about to change.
All my friends, relatives, they can't believe that I came over to Australia to play hockey,
Daryl Batt is one of 7 new recruits brought to the club for this season's National League. There's big raps on the centre, who is one of the leading players at university level in Canada.
I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully come here and help the team. Hockey's just getting new here in Australia, so hopefully, bring some people out to the game.
Of the 7 recruits, all are Canadian except for one, a big Ukrainian who, like Daryl, only arrived in the country today and who's looking forward to an Australian experience.
I almost came last year. It didn't little bit work out. I had other stuff to do in Canada, and I'm really excited and just see the country a little bit and play hockey and train here. Yeah, I'm really excited. Yeah.
But the team also has a new coach. Robert Barnes has played and coached at the highest level, but a non-playing injury forced him to retire. Australia offered a new opportunity and a chance to give back to his sport, and he's excited about the talent put together at the North Stars.
They're all really talented. They're all hungry to play hockey, and I'm looking forward to a good season out of them and from all of us.
The team's first game of the season is at Warners Bay on Saturday afternoon against the defending champions, the Sydney Bears. Cullen Robinson, NBN News.
If the Hunters federal politicians convince Canberra that Newcastle is the place to build Navy patrol boats, 400 direct and up to 1,800 indirect jobs could be created by the stroke of a pen.
It's building boats and then ultimately following through with 15-year through-life support. So we'll get ongoing support of these vessels for the Navy over the next 15 years.
ADI's drawcard is its revolutionary composite fibre, which was used to build the Huon-class mine hunters. And today, management took the chance to hammer the fact home, displaying its qualities against more traditional materials. ADI says the Defence Force will find its bid hard to overlook and is optimistic about the outcome.
We're quietly confident. We believe we've got not only technically the best solution, but we also believe we've put on an offer in value for money terms that will be unmatched.
Following today's presentation, ADI is now relying upon Senator Tierney and federal member Bob Baldwin to add political weight to its campaign. In the meantime, it faces a nervous 6 to 8 weeks until an announcement is made. Stephen Mount, NBN News.
Tammy Taylor is the first person in her family to finish high school. She's currently completing a Bachelor of Science and will soon achieve another milestone when she graduates from university.
Sort of blown my mum away a little. She's overwhelmed a bit. Sometimes she gets like, I can't believe you're going to graduate.
Since she was in Year 7, Tammy has received financial and professional support from the Learning for Life program.
If it wasn't for the scholarship, I wouldn't be at uni now because it's just we would not be able to afford it at all.
It's run by the Smith family and is aimed at lower income families.
In Australia at the moment, the Smith family are servicing about 20,000 children in the Learning for Life program to try to give them the best opportunity we can to a brighter future through that education.
The program has also made a difference to law student Matthew Jennings.
It's made sure that I've always got plenty of money for textbooks or transport or all those different kinds of things that otherwise you'd definitely be feeling the pressure of every time the new semester starts.
And the support is paying off. Along with fellow student Emma Renshaw, Matthew recently came second in an international law competition in South Africa.
We were surprised to get to the nationals, so it was unbelievable to even be travelling overseas.
Remarkably, for the last 14 years, the Learning for Life program has relied solely on private funding. Lyndall Derrig, NBN News. Yesterday, the opposition was quick to point out the dangers of the Stony Creek Bridge, particularly the rotten and broken sleepers of the main Northern Railway line.
So most of those sleepers have reached their use-by date decades ago.
Oh,
that's ridiculous.
But instead of announcing plans to repair the bridge, today the government focused on another issue, namely the opposition. Transport Minister Michael Costa accused the opposition of trespassing and of violating the Rail Safety Act and possibly the Crimes Act by endangering the safety of others. Mr Costa said during the inspection no safety measures were apparent and no Rail Infrastructure Corporation officers were in attendance. He added no high visibility safety vests were worn. But the opposition says it's just another ploy to distract the public from Labor's appalling record on rail safety. It says it makes no apologies for highlighting the state of the track and won't be intimidated by the government. Meanwhile, Mr Costa said the bridge was inspected this morning and is safe. Lyndall Derrick, NBN News. They're some of the ocean's most graceful creatures, and while bottlenose dolphins can be seen every day of the year at Port Stephens, today was their day to be counted as part of the annual dolphin census. Over the years, locals have debated just how many dolphins there are in the bay. The National Parks and Wildlife Service is now gathering an accurate annual record.
The last 2 years we've had about 112 and 113 dolphins respectively each of those 2 years, and we're hoping to get as good a count as that.
Many of the dolphins were lured inside the bay today by the large number of fish that are available at this time of year. For exactly half an hour, 85 volunteers spread throughout the area counted. The information now destined to be used for scientific research.
We've been able to, I suppose, mix a bit of science with getting all the community involved, and I don't really know if this occurs anywhere else in the world.
More than 100 dolphins were spotted, the figure also providing an encouraging sign for the area's commercial dolphin watching industry, which is worth more than $4 million a year. Lyndall Derrick, NBN News.
Sighted by Captain Cook in 1770, the island we now know as Nobbies was at one point going to be blown up because it was a hazard to shipping. But it survived to be mined for its coal after convicts built a pier joining it to the mainland, and a lighthouse was established in 1858. Now, with the lighthouse and 3 cottages on the site unmanned, the Port Corporation is looking for a new tenant.
A cafe, a bed and breakfast, some form of restaurant.
The Port Corp says it's costing over $200,000 a year to maintain the site and it needs a return.
We're looking to assist in covering those costs, but more importantly we're trying to open up the site to the people of Newcastle and tourists who wish to visit the city.
Doing the dishes would be a breeze with this view, and many feel the cottages would lend themselves to some form of tourist accommodation. The expressions of interest phase will be open for 2 months, and the Port Corp says any development will be in keeping with the history of the site. So a major hotel, a novelty drive-through restaurant, or even a small factory have all been ruled out.
Very important icon for the city, and any development here has to be sensitive to that.
The winning tenderer will be announced in September. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
On your dad. Thanks, Clevy.
When NBN News last caught up with Dr. Christopher Miller, the Mater Hospital-based medico was nearing the end of a campaign for donations before his mission to the Solomon Islands. Now he's there, and the generosity of a community is about to join him.
Something that has taken a lot of effort, but to see it come to fruition now in such a short time is wonderful.
From a push by Dr. Miller and Catholic Mission in early February, 3 shipping containers full of supplies has been the result. Everything from 22 hospital beds to wheelchairs, operating theatre equipment and a boat. Even storage and loading services were donated. It's all designed for use by the doctor during his 2-year healing and teaching trip, and by the people of the Solomon Islands long after.
It's providing services in a local community in the Choiseul Island, which is in the northern part of the Solomon Islands, that's going to benefit a community of about 20,000 people who otherwise would have a 6-hour boat trip to Honiara for some of these medical services.
Today, the big move began with more than 15 tonnes of equipment loaded onto army trucks for the journey north to Cairns. It'll then board a Navy ship bound for Bougainville, which is making a special diversion to Choiseul.
It's not something that they would normally do for this sort of a situation, but it just so happens that it dovetailed with them.
Colin Baldwin, NBN News.
There's a strange sight in Norfolk Avenue. These unusual tree stump statues have sprung up everywhere. They're all that's left of 40 mature plum pines after Newcastle Council swung into action with its chainsaws today. The trees with their large canopies may be attractive to look at, but those who live under them and their dripping berries have been wanting them gone for years.
They need to come out because we've got the footpath's terrible.
Well, it went down our side drive
and we've wrecked all our cement getting the big roots out of the ground, and it's gone that way under the house as well.
The stumps will be given to local timber artists, the root-damaged footpaths will be repaired, a grass strip added and 45 advanced water gums planted where the pines once were.
Are you happy the trees are being cut down?
Yes, to plant a new one.
Yeah, we were informed regularly. We had a few letters in the mail and there was a few meetings held, and I feel that we were let know what was happening really well.
According to Newcastle Council, the $200,000 Norfolk Avenue makeover should be complete in about 2 months. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
Peter Blackmore had been facing 11 sex charges relating to 3 women dating back to the 1970s. In dismissing allegations made by one of the complainants, who'd originally said she was assaulted by Mr Blackmore when she was 15, but later changed her testimony saying she was 16, Magistrate Peter Mikowski said there was no reasonable prospect of a jury making a conviction. In regards to another alleged victim, who the court was told had a history of hospital admissions for psychosis and had at one point believed Mr Blackmore was a serial killer and had killed a few people, the magistrate said, "As I see it, her evidence becomes the least reliable of all." However, he ruled that 5 charges relating to a third alleged victim should stand for the moment, saying it's a shaky case, but I think it's a matter for a jury. The magistrate decided to continue the committal hearing, inviting the defence to produce more evidence. Outside the court, Mr Blackmore said he'd continue to fight the charges.
It's been a very long time, 14 months, that I've been waiting for this.
The case will again come before the court on Friday, when a date will be set for the committal hearing to continue. The defence will then give more evidence before the magistrate decides whether or not the final 5 charges should proceed to trial. Natasha Bayersdorf, NBN News.
Named before but unable to play, Ben Kennedy has his medical clearance, but he will be shouldering discomfort in his return match. That's nothing new to the Kangaroo forward.
Expressing that he's ready to go on 100%, so I think we'll just take him on that at this point.
Criticised by some for shifting hooker Danny Badineris to halfback, Coach Hagan believes the Test rake will have the chance to perform much better, now behind a pack bolstered by some big names.
I think if you put Josh Perry and Ben Kennedy back in the football team, your halfback can be confident that the team's going to go forward and allow you to kick the football with more time and space and organise your trips a bit better.
But their inclusion means just as much for some other teammates as well.
I'm expecting the presence of BK to really help blokes like Regan Tanner, Blake Mueller. Just packing down next to BK will really give them the confidence, that they probably need.
Winger Anthony Quinn makes his return from injury also, with Tamana Tahu to start in the centres. The side will again be led by Matt Parsons, who won further praise for delaying back surgery another week, this time to play against his former club.
And he's determined to get a win with the captain beside his name, so hopefully we can help him do that this weekend.
Jim Callanan, NBN News.
Unfortunate that Robbie O got injured and there's a few other players out, so it's just I've had 6 weeks off and the doc's cleared me to come back, and Hagues has had enough confidence in me to let me go back into the wing spot.
A change of pace for United's players this morning with the squad swapping boots for bats. It's unlikely an Englishman and a Brazilian have ever shared the same pitch before, and for once it was the Englishman who looked on top of his game.
Mate, I actually got the most runs in my side. I would just like to say that, just like to state that. Yeah, no, look, it was good day today. We haven't had one of them for a while now. We've really concentrated heavily on, especially the final series, and I think we just needed a little bit of light-hearted stuff today.
A boost too for Adam Griffiths, who's set to return from injury against Olympic, and Josh Mitchell from suspension. There's suddenly no lack of defensive talent in United's ranks, but the comeback of Chris Zoricic could be delayed after the Kiwi captain hurt his knee yesterday.
And he just feels a little bit sore on there at the moment, so he didn't train today, so we'll see how he pans out.
However, the next generation of United players continues to get plenty out of the final series, with Monday's game set to be the 5th top-grade appearance for 18-year-old Tom Lieberson.
Olympic are a top side, but the tough games are always the best of playing.
I'm still taking these 3 games serious. I want to win them.
Colin Baldwin, NBN News. The National Park Annual Carnival always attracts some big-name croquet players, and this year Andrew Johnston is the biggest. Ranked 135th before qualifying for the World Championships in New Zealand last November, the Irishman finished an amazing 3rd, all while he was on the way to Sydney to play rugby for First Division club Drummoyne.
Been playing rugby since about 8 years old, and I'd say just sort of stumbled into croquet, and I never it's just sort of tinkered around in the summer just when the rugby season was finished. And I really enjoy the game. There's a lot more to it than everybody thinks.
Beaten in his opening match by Brisbane's Liz Fleming in what is a mixed sport, the 23-year-old's Irish luck returned with 2 round-robin wins today. The final of the prestigious tournament is held on Saturday. Meantime, it's the business end of the $8,000 Premier Pairs at Alder Park Bowling Club tomorrow, following 3 days of qualifying rounds to determine the top 24 teams. The sun finally shining on the competition after it was washed out last year.
Welcome to Ken and Wendy Derry's own Fantasy Island, a 2-hectare piece of paradise located less than a kilometre off the northern shores of Port Stephens. It's idyllic, a perfect place to visit, but would you really want to build here? The Derrys did, much to the amazement of landlocked neighbours.
They find out what you're doing over here, they think you're an idiot, and they're probably right.
The couple snapped up the prized property at auction nearly 2 years ago for $480,000. That was just the beginning of their island adventure.
You couldn't see through at all, couldn't see a thing. It was overgrown up to halfway up the trees with lantana and pricklevine.
After 3 months of clearing, the builders arrived. Then the difficult part began, transporting every single piece of material by barge. At times, they thought of giving up.
Every day. Every day! I said, I'm going to heaven because I'm doing my purgatory now.
But the labour of love is now bearing fruit, a dream home in the most spectacular of settings. It's one of the more unusual jobs builder Laurie Murphy has worked on.
I reckon it's going to be a beautiful looking house and a magic. Where else are you going to get this sort of your own island with a beautiful cottage on it? It's fabulous.
Ken and Wendy hope to move in here within a couple of months. And even living on an island, they'll face the usual domestic chores. But imagine doing the washing up with this view.
It's just unbelievable, the sort of feel to the place. Once it's all cleaned up and finished and the grass is in and the gardens are in and all that, it should probably be another 5 years.
It's no holiday, but this island escape will soon be home. Natasha Bayersdorf, NBN News.
Three large lakes on the 70-hectare Horizons course at Salamander Bay are perfect for breeding mozzies. In a bid to reduce the number of the annoying insects, the resort today released its secret weapon, 1,000 silver perch fingerlings with a taste for mozzies.
For the first 12 months of their life and their inclusion into the waterways here, they'll predominantly feed on the mosquito larvae. They have a smaller mouth than the native bass, our other native fish, and that being the main reason why they will eat the smaller larvae.
It'll take about a year for the fingerlings to grow to pan size, but not all of them will survive thanks to their natural predators in the dam, eels and cormorants.
We expect to yield probably 70% of what we put in, so we're expecting 600 to 700 out of the 1,000 that we put in today.
Shane Bailey hopes his little babies will soon make life a little more comfortable for residents and golfers at the resort.
Will they throw the golf balls back?
Oh, I wish they would. We might have to train them up for that one, Paul. We'll see how we go.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
According to the PNC, the last time Edgeworth Public School received an upgrade was 1973. Back then it was only ever intended to house 300 students. But 30 years on, and with enrolments exceeding 500, the school is bursting at the seams. Fed up with lobbying the state government and getting nowhere, the PNC staged a demonstration next to the school grounds this morning, bringing their calls for funding to the attention of passing motorists.
We need a lot of things. Mainly we need a hall. We have over 500 students and the area is only going to get bigger and we're not coping.
Not only does the school have to hold 3 separate assemblies to address its students, it has nowhere for students to go in inclement weather, meaning they can be stuck in the same classroom all day.
We can't have outdoor things unless we have good weather.
The PNC says it's been overlooked by the state government for the past 30 years and has been forced to fund almost all of the school's improvements. Money it says will be better spent on the kids' education. But in the meantime, they're not giving up.
We're still going to keep this awareness program going and make sure that our voice is heard.
Stephen Mount, NBN News.
Newcastle and Lake Macquarie were among the first areas in the state 6 years ago to trial the 50 km/h speed limit. The state government's decision that all residential streets and built-up areas will have the lower speed limit from November 1 has been welcomed by Newcastle Lord Mayor John Tate. He hopes another benefit will be fewer speed limit signs across the city.
We had a forest of signs some years ago. Now that there's a blanket 50k limit, I think some of those signs can come down.
But 50 won't be the only residential limit in Newcastle, with some existing 40 km/h local traffic zones to remain in force. While school zones are the main areas that drivers encounter 40 km/h zones, Newcastle Council could soon extend the number of areas limited to 40 k's in the city to include popular areas that are heavily used by pedestrians.
I think it's now an option, and in streets like Beaumont Street, Derby Street, parts of Derby Street at least, you could certainly have a 40k limit there.
And driveway safety is the next issue for Hunter motorists, with the region today receiving $10,000 for an awareness campaign. Gary Blair, NBN News.
Almost 2 months ago, Wayne Lavender was found guilty of manslaughter after the death of 13-year-old Michael Milne at a sand mining site in 2001. Michael died after being hit by a front-end loader, which was driven by Wayne Lavender. In today's sentence hearing, Beverly Lavender took the stand for the first time and described her husband's remorse on the night of Michael's death. He said to her, "I got to live with this for the rest of my life, and I just keep seeing that boy. I just keep seeing that boy." While the defence said it was an error in judgment on the part of Lavender, the Crown argued he deliberately steered his vehicle in pursuit of where those boys were running. It was also revealed the site still hasn't been fenced off. Judge Ralph Coulihan told the court it's a site that has probably got the biggest sandcastle in the whole area and it's not fenced. "I can't believe that." He also added there possibly should be more people sitting in the dock today besides Mr Lavender. Lavender will be sentenced on the 20th of May. Lyndall Derrick, NBN News.
My family is sort of only an hour away here, and I've got a lot of friends and that around the area, and plus it's such a good football side as well. Like you can achieve like your other goals.
Starting the day 2 points behind Wyong, things didn't go well from the kick-off. Injuries don't help, while tries really hurt. Brad Besant scoring Wyong's first. A one-time country regular, Troy Pezzett showed why he could still be a bolter for selection with a final pass for Nathan Alsop's try. Losing Dean Amos to the Knights last week, the Roos have lost little in new number one Chris Begeni, who took the score to 18-0. Meanwhile, in Murwillumbah, if Newcastle thought they were going to dominate the zone elimination final early, Northern Rivers had other ideas. Both sides posted 2 tries apiece to see the score locked at 12-all at the break. Northern Rivers was first to break the deadlock, but from then on it was all Newcastle. Fullback Trent Sorkeld with 2 consecutive tries. A disheartened Northern Rivers couldn't regroup and the Novocastrians pounced. Another 3 tries putting the final score at 40-14.
Chrysanthemums were selling fast along roadsides this morning, with many people stopping to pick up a bunch. And the sudden rush, of course, was for a very good reason, to say thank you to mothers. The importance of the day not lost on florists. In fact, it's one of their busiest times of the year.
I think most mums just like to be recognised and say thank you to them. I don't really think they need anything more than just thanks.
Fortunately, today's weather enabled many families to enjoy the outdoors, some opting for barbecues or picnic lunches. But it's this little bundle of joy which made Mother's Day really special for Prudence Lyons from Fletcher. Seth James was delivered via caesarean just before 2 o'clock this morning, 2.5 weeks early. It seems he just couldn't wait to meet his mum on her special day.
Our first little boy was born on a Sunday and that was precious, and now that he's born on Mother's Day, it's lovely.
Lyndall Derrig, NBN News.